Hi, my name is Anneli Portman, and this is the second lesson in the series of Finnish political culture and system. In this lesson, we will look at voting and elections and the principles that govern them. Finland has the claim to fame that it is the first country in Europe to give full political rights to women. The first elections under these full rights were held in 1907. All elections are governed by the same democratic principles. And however, Finland has no tradition of direct democracy. So national referendums have been held so far only twice, once to end the prohibition of selling and buying alcohol, and the second one to enter into the EU. However, there is a new constitutional amendment which allows the citizens to gather 50,000 signatures and then propose a law to the parliament. But all the other elections in Finland are following the same democratic principles and are representational. So the voters can elect the parliament, the president, municipal councils, the Parliament of Åland, and members of the EU. These are held either every 4 years, every 5 years, or every 6 years, as you can see in the slide. The next elections will be the municipal elections in 2017. This is what a ballot paper looks like, or looked like in 2011. So you could only scribe the number and your voting would be done. Who can vote? In Finland, if you're a citizen and are more than 18 years old, you can vote in all elections. However, in municipal elections, you need to have residency. If you have the residency, even if you're not a Finnish citizen, but you have lived there for a little bit more than 2 years, you can vote. What are the principles that govern the elections of Finland? There are 7 principles. First of all, the elections are direct, they are proportional, they are secret. The right to vote is universal and equal, and voting is personal. Voting takes place in front of election authorities, and the system of how you vote is a combination of voting for party and voting for the person. We will take now a look at the details of what these principles mean in practice. The elections are direct. It means the electors, those entitled to vote directly for the person whom they want to be elected. The elections are proportional, and that means that the political parties gain approximately as many seats as the percentage of the votes for that particular party or coalition has been. The elections are secret. That means that neither the election authorities nor anyone else gets to know for whom the voters have cast their votes or whether they have returned an empty ballot. The right to vote is universal and equal. Universal franchise means that the right to vote only depends on the requirements that the citizens usually fulfill. So you have to be above 18, you have to be a citizen, and sometimes you have to be a resident. An equal franchise means that every person entitled to vote has an equal right to influence the election results, i.e., everyone has the same number of votes, only one. One vote, but make it count. Voting is personal, so you cannot ask somebody else to vote on your behalf. It cannot be used through an agent. Of course, there are situations where you might require somebody to help you to vote, but the vote is still yours. Voting takes place in front of election authorities. The reason for this is that it's a way of guaranteeing that the elections are trustworthy, that the voters may very freely express their will without being constrained by anyone else, and that the secrecy is maintained. The elections the system, are also a combination of voting for individuals and parties. So the vote goes both to a person and to a party. This, of course, doesn't apply to presidential elections, in which the vote is only cast for the candidate, not for a party. Well, how do voters then decide whom to vote? People vote as an expression of who they are, as an expression of their identity. And therefore, candidate choice is influenced by values, by the personalization of politics, by the timing of voting, and by gender. And now we'll look at a little bit closer at all of these. Personalization of politics means that personal values are very important as well. And personal values are compared to those expressed by the political parties and coalitions. So, perceived similarity is very important. So much so that the voters might vote for a dishonest candidate simply because they think that they themselves are not exactly as honest as they maybe should be. Political values and personal values influence voting more than age or education or salary or occupation. And voters are also more prone to vote for candidates who they think value the well-being of others more than just personal gain. Personalization of politics depends on the decline of ideological voting. So it seems that it's not as important what your candidate thinks as who he is or who she is. So the diminishing link between political parties and the citizens further enhance it. But most importantly, the role of media has grown so much that it gives a face and therefore an importance of the person of the candidate rather than his party affiliations. In Finland, the open list system leads to candidate-centered electoral emphasis because it is the voters who decide who is the most important candidate, not the political party that stands her as a candidate in their list. The consequences of this personalization is that image management is more important than ever. Looks can also influence candidate choice, as well as other completely peripheral cues such as the height, how attractive you are, symmetrical features of your face, but also trustworthiness and competence are criteria that the voters judge in a very, very short time based on the facial features of the candidate. That's why you see so many photos in the posters of candidates. Also, tone of voice has a great impact. Males with a low voice are judged to be more trustworthy than those with a higher pitch. Timing of decision also impacts how voters make the choice. For instance, early deciders usually take into consideration both the incumbent and the challenger's traits, but late deciders mainly vote for the one who's already there because they don't have time to think of what the traits are and how important they are. In Finland, in the last elections, about 46% of the voters voted beforehand in advance, so they had plenty of time to think whom they want in the parliament. Gender impacts voting. 62% of women and about 69% of men vote for a candidate of the same sex as they are. And also, interestingly enough, stereotypical assumptions concerning gender affect the choice of the candidate. When there is an importance of competitive traits given, maybe during economic crisis or other seasons where competitiveness carries an edge, usually male candidates are preferred. When importance is given to being pro-social, taking care of others, fostering cohesion, then female candidates are preferred. So, for instance, in last elections of 2015, there were 117 men elected to the parliament and only 83 women. during economic crisis, that is to be expected. Now is your time to think. What traits and values are important for you in a political candidate? More on the topic? You can click on the website and you will find these articles for the registered student, and otherwise you can just use Google Scholar and find out more about voting in general and voting in Finland in particular. And all of this has to do with what makes Finland tick.